Okay, so I've got a functioning fireball scroll, and I would like to create it as an FBX and bring it into Unity. So let's go ahead and try that. I'm going to go ahead and push A to select all. I will go to File, Export as an FBX, and we'll just create this. I will go to an instance of Unity, and let's bring that into the project, and then let's bring it into the scene. And we can see that there's some problems. I've got all kinds of things showing up, like the scroll's repeating itself over and over and over again. Well, that would appear to be all of these shape keys. If I go through and select all these, for example, we can see that those go away. I've got this extra light that's in the scene. I've got this extra camera, and that's because I wasn't selective when I did my exports. So now that we've got it looking a little more appropriate, well, let's go ahead and create an animation controller. Let's apply that animation controller to my scroll. Let's take a look at what I have. Well, I appear to have some animations in here, but they seem to be kind of disjointed. So I'm not entirely sure what I'm getting here. So let's just go to controller. We'll come back here to these items and we'll just try dragging some of these into the scene and see what we get. All right, well, the scroll does appear to be unrolling the way it's supposed to. So what we did with the shape keys in the previous video and the animations appears to be working, but clearly I have some work to do. So let's take a look at our project in Blender and see if we can make a few changes. I've got my shape keys. I've turned those into animations with keyframes. Now I've got these handles that appear to be one item, and if we look at them, well, they're attached to the spiral. There's one specific cylinder, and that has a mirror modifier on it. Well, that mirror modifier needs to go away. That's going to be a problem, and probably will not animate properly. The animation in question that I have regarding the handles is this one motion that's happening here on the spiral, which then is controlling this particular handle, which then is being mirrored to this one. So I think what I need to do is go ahead and apply the mirror modifier or get rid of it. Now, if I go ahead and if I apply it, well, we now have one solid object. So that's probably not going to work. If I go ahead and I export this as an FBX, this is now one item that's going to move as one, and that's not going to work for us. So let's Control Z a couple of times. Bring that modifier back for the moment. So I think what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to get a front view of this. I'll do a Shift D to duplicate, and I will move the new handle to the other side. I'll get rid of the mirror modifier in each handle. If I push play, we'll see that I have two separate objects, but they're following the same path because they are parented to this spiral. But they are two separate items. I think what I'll do next is I will take this item, I will do an Alt P, and I will clear the parenting relationship. So now if we push play, I've got the one handle moving as it should, and the other one still. What I may do as well is clear the parenting relationship with this one as well. So I'll do Alt P, clear that parent. Now if I go ahead and I push play, neither one is moving. I could animate one of these items to move on its own, and then I can mirror that relationship over to, or copy and mirror that relationship over to the other handle. And then once we've done that, we'll take a look at if I'm able to export this as an FBX and bring it into Unity. I will just select the spiral. And what I will do is I will move to keyframes that are significant for that spiral. So if I go out to frame 50, and then I select this handle, and let's move it on Y. So G, Y. And let's just move it roughly where it needs to be. I'll go ahead and I will Shift D to duplicate that and move it out to frame 60, I believe it was. Let's look at the other frames. So around frame 110, I have it fully closed. I will go ahead and I will grab the handle again on Y, so GY. Let's move it back to the starting location. And then I'm going to do a Shift D in the timeline window, and I will move what I had just copied back to the opening frame. And if we go ahead and push play, we will see that the handle is moving appropriately with the scroll. And then we'll go ahead and we'll do the same thing on the opposite side. And then once we've done that, we'll try exporting again to see if we get different behavior based on animations being specifically applied to each item in question. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to save this as an FBX. I'm going to get rid of the camera and the light. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to push A to select everything. I'm going to go to Export, FBX. This time around, I'm going to make sure that I've got selected objects chosen so that I'm not grabbing all these extra scrolls and hidden items. For geometry, I think I'm going to leave that fine. I'm going to go ahead and apply modifiers, even though I don't really have any, but I'll just leave that checked. Armature, I don't think I'm making any changes. Animation, I'm going to have that selected. I'm going to make sure that NLA strips and all actions are unchecked, I think. And then we'll go ahead and we'll export this. And then coming back into Unity, let's find that item that I just saved. Let's drag it into Unity. Let's bring it into the scene. And then let's go ahead and we'll apply the animation controller to it. We'll go back to it. I will find what animations I have. I've got one called Scene. Looks a lot less confusing than what I had before. I'll just drag it in. We'll go back to Scene and we'll go ahead and push play and see what happens. And we can see that it is furling and unfurling the way that I would like. Now I think I'm going to have to go back and do this, make some changes. I see that although my basic material applied, I don't seem to have anything on my scroll. I'm thinking that the scale is probably massively huge. So I might have to make some changes to the scale. And I think maybe I might also go back and set it up so that there's two distinct animations, one for opening and one for closing, rather than one that just opens and closes. So I'll go do that next, and then I'll have a scroll that's nearly ready for use in Unity.